delicious breakfast. I want to thank all the volunteers, the caterers who made this possible, Security Federal, and all the partners for this great event that we come to every year. I appreciate everyone's efforts to make this work. I'm John Parton. I'm the public defender for Warren and Van Buren counties, the Scuffler 31st Judicial District. I'm happy to be here as the moderator this year. We're proud to be invited again. We're joined today by three esteemed guests. Senator Janice Bowling from the 16th Senatorial District, representing Coffee, DeKalb, Franklin, Grundy, Lincoln, and Warren. Is that right?
Yes, that's right.
All right, so Senator Bowling's here. We also have Representative Paul Sherrill from the 43rd District, representing Warren and White counties.
Sir.
And we have County Executive Terry Bell, elected in 2022 and a former longtime county commissioner and business owner before that. And Midville Mayor Ron Chastain, as was announced previously, was unable to attend today for a prior scheduled commitment. So there have been a number of questions submitted from the community over the last couple of weeks. There's been a lot of effort made to try to compile and curate these. And then I think we're going to try to set aside a little bit of time at the end for any additional audience questions, which is always an exciting time for everyone, I'm sure. So we'll go ahead and start with question. We'll go first with Senator Bowling. Senator Bowling, now that the end of the session is over, could you reflect on the mood of the Capitol this year and specifically the events that kind of overshadowed the end when the voucher legislation seemed to drive all of the conversation? What's the feel at the Hill when something's happening that's moving along and then never gets brought to the floor, kind of dies? How does something like that happen?
It happens with regularity. This past session, and actually the year before that, so this was the 113th session of the Tennessee General Assembly, and each session takes 2 years. So the year that we had in 2023 and 2024, that was the 113th General Assembly. And it was weird from beginning to end. As you all remember, the incidents that took place in February with the Speaker, and then there were incidents with, of course, Covenant School, and that overshadowed everything. And then the last few weeks of session was nonstop rioting. It was large groups of people that were screaming and yelling, "This is what democracy looks like." And I said, yes, and praise God, we're not a democracy. We are a constitutional republic based on the rule of law with representative government. So we're not mob action. We have representation right there at that General Assembly. But that was that year. Then this past year, John, it was very, very calm on the surface, but you could feel that there was just turmoil ready to burst forward. So it was a very strange feeling this year. And there were several things, but in particular the voucher. The governor had announced in November of 2023 that he was going to come forward with educational freedom, I think they called it at that point. And in fact, there was no bill that had been written until about the middle or end of February. And by then, the House had written their own bill, which was like 49 pages. The Senate had written their own bill, which was like 14 pages. The governor had his bill, which was 7 pages. And none of them were the same. And so people would say, well, are you for the voucher? And I said, which one? Are you for the voucher? And I said, I haven't even read the bill. You can't say you're in support of something that you're not even sure what it says or what it does. And so once I read some of the bills of all 3 bills and saw how disparate they were, and the fact that they didn't come forward to the very end of session, the Lord took mercy on me and gave me pneumonia. So the last week of session, my husband insisted that I run by urgent care on my way because I was fighting allergies. How many of you were fighting allergies this spring? I mean, it was just a terrible year. And when I went into the urgent care and they took an x-ray, they said, Janice, you've got pneumonia. You need to go home and here's your prescriptions. Pick them up on the way and don't leave home for 4 days. And I said, but this is the last week of session, that's 4 days. They said, don't leave home for 4 days. So I got orders from God to stay home those last 4 days, and I was on the phone I could see what was happening in the House, what was happening in the Senate, because watching the news and whatever. So I was calling, you need to watch out. They're about to do this in the House. Y'all did some crazy things, Paul, in the House. And I said, and then, look, we need to do this because I think there's an opportunity. So it was really, in some ways, not as stressful, but it was very productive to be able to be there and be communicating with both sides of both chambers simultaneously as they were going through things. So, long and short, the voucher was DOA. And they've been told it's going to come back next year, but I don't know in what form. And so I think that a lot of people think that it's good that parents have a choice, and parents have a choice now. But with that particular those bills, the homeschoolers totally opposed it, and the educational establishments totally opposed it. So there was no one that really loved it. My calls were 100 against it to 1 for it. It was not very popular.
All right, thank you very much. Representative Sherrill, let's talk for just a moment about bipartisanship. There's always a concern every year. There are a number of questions talking about bipartisanship in this state, and is it still possible, and does it still exist? Could you give some examples of ways you've reached with other people across the aisle to accomplish either legislation or constituent service goals for the area?
Yeah. Well, first, let me say thank you for the opportunity to be here today. It is a great privilege and honor to be here. And the ones that cooked our breakfast this morning, you've done a great job. We do appreciate that very much this morning. It's very good. In Warren County, I just can't say enough to say I appreciate you, what you all have done for me and my wife and family. So thank you very much. But yes, there is some bipartisan issues in Nashville, and hopefully, you know, as we go to Nashville to try to represent you in Warren County and White County, you've got to go down there with the attitude of you're not the one. You're just one person. One person cannot do it by itself. It takes people working together, and sometimes, as I'm a Republican and our Republican Party, we try to do things, hopefully in a good way, but you have the Democrat Party that they have things that they want to get through, and there's some good bills on both sides, and hopefully that you can come together and reason together and try to come together and try to pass good legislation that is good for say your area, the 43rd District, or the great state of Tennessee. So it does take some working together. You do not do it by yourself. Just it takes a team effort, and both sides has some good ideals sometimes. But hopefully, as we try to do, we try to work together that'll accomplish things in a good way.
Thank you, sir. Mr. Bell, let's stay on that theme of bipartisanship on the local level. Could you give some examples of McMinnville and Warren County government's collaborative projects that are in the works right now?
Well, I guess one of the biggest things, we've had several votes in the county commission that have been unanimous since I took office, so that we're working across party lines both ways. If the individuals that's elected see that we've got a good project that benefits Warren County, because in the end, we're all here to we may have differences in our opinions, but we're all here to make Warren County a better place to live and a better place to raise our family and work. And so the mall project's a prime example of that. That was a unanimous vote. We had one commissioner that was not there, and he called to tell me if he would have been there, he would have voted yes, and it would have been 24-0 vote on that. And that's really huge when you got 24 people that come together and are willing to support a project to try to make it work.
All right. Senator Bowling, one thing that you've been out in front of for years now is cannabis use, or medicinal or otherwise. And with the recent news that the federal government intends to potentially reschedule cannabis or marijuana, do you feel as though that's an area that can get any traction at the state level?
I do, and for those that didn't know, I had carried legislation for medical cannabis. Medical cannabis is strongly opposed by pharmaceuticals, surprise, surprise, but it has been used throughout the United States for a number of years. Israel has done tremendous research, Dr. Raphael Mechoulam, and I was totally against it when it first came up, and I was not carrying the legislation about 7 years ago. Jeremy Faison said, Senator Bowling, once you study the information, I know you're going to change your mind. I said, Jeremy, you get out of my office right now. I'm not going to change my mind. I'm totally against this. And then I read the information and read the research and found out that we have endocannabinoid systems in our bodies that are you do not get addicted to. So it's different from opioids. It's different from those things. It's actually in the natural state, very helpful with compounding. So when I ran the legislation, I don't even think I got a second in committee. And people are totally opposed to it, but a lot of pharmacists sit on that particular committee, and so they're not going to let it go through. But the deal with it now, when it's changed, about 3 years ago, I was invited to Alabama because Alabama saw my legislation online, and they had come up to visit with me and asked if they could take my bill to Alabama and pass it down there. And so a doctor in the Senate and a former Alabama Bureau of Investigation officer were the two representatives and the senator that carried my legislation in Alabama, and it passed. And it was signed into law, and I was invited to be there as a special guest when my legislation was signed into law. So now, I do know that people from Tennessee, should they take it off the schedule right now, will be able to go to Alabama and buy a good product that has been carefully observed and watched and grown and tested, and so you know that you will get a product. That's what I was trying to do for Tennesseans with my legislation. And what you won't get is something from Eastern Europe or China that maybe has been grown in a lot of ways where it could have heavy leads, it could have all kinds of problems with it. It could not have been produced and put together in a correct fashion. So I know that Tennesseans will be able to go to Alabama and get a good product, but I also know that now there will be a push to get that in Tennessee because some of the pharmaceutical people wanted to wait until it was off schedule so they could prescribe it and sell it and make money on it. But they are looking more at the chemical compounds that are not the natural products, and they are truly not as good, and they can actually have dangers in and of themselves. So you want the natural product, and you want it done like it's going to be done in Alabama. So yes, I think it's time, but it's also, for us, we need to make certain that if in Tennessee we're going to enter into that, it would be a great time for us still to have the interstate market now. Prior, and just one last thing, prior to that, since 2014, what I was pushing for was legal. It was a legal medical cannabis program according to federal law because they had added to the omnibus budget each year in D.C. the waiver that said that no judicial money would be spent on intra-state programs. So all the states now, 38 states, have intra-state programs, and now they'll be able to go interstate, and Tennessee will be able to go interstate, but we do need a program that protects the product and makes sure that any product coming out of Tennessee is tested and done in a way that will be safe for the consumer.
Thank you. Representative Cheryl, one question that was asked about a potential local project was the potential new state park in the Cardwell area. Are you aware of those developments, and could you update the room about that progress?
Yes, thank you very much. We had the opportunity, I guess it was about 2 weeks ago, with our Tennessee State Parks to go up and visit this site up there, and very interesting to see some of the artifacts that's there. Executive Terry Bell, myself, and some of the other locals was able to go and see, and you know, it'll be great for Warren County because when I was first elected, I really wondered about state parks, you know. But state parks, our Tennessee state parks are very valuable to us in the great state of Tennessee. You wouldn't believe how many people come from other states or maybe all over the world that come to our parks because we have good parks and we have parks that don't charge for people to get into. So it's a very valuable tool because people come, and when they come to our parks and enjoy our beautiful parks we have in Tennessee, they spend money. So it's good for our economy in Tennessee to the people to come. And this park up here, they're in the workings of doing things up there to make it nicer. It won't be open to the public for a pretty good little while because there is some different things that they've got to do. They're sort of not really opening it up right now, truthfully trying to keep sort of people away from it till they get set up and get the security around it that they want to have. They're trying to protect some things up there that needs to be protected in our state parks. So it's very early stages in it. It'll be a great thing for Warren County as well as other parks in the great state of Tennessee. And we've worked on that. We've worked on up in White County, the Scotts of Gulf Wilderness State Parks and in other parks across the state of Tennessee. And our governor has put a lot of money into our state parks, which is a very valuable tool, and it will be good for Warren County once this is opened up to the public.
All right, thank you. Mr. Bell, can we talk a little bit about property? You mentioned the mall earlier. Can you talk about the long-term plans for the mall and then how that's going to affect other properties in conjunction maybe with the Armory relocating and those properties coming in?
Okay, at the mall, of course, we're hoping to get our senior center by the middle of June moved over to the mall where the Goodies location was. Atlanta has done a really good job of fast tracking that project. So if you've not had a chance, you can go by sometime and take a look at how it's progressing. We will be getting the drawings, some preliminary drawings on the health department. We're going into JCPenney's here the first part of June. Hopefully by fall we will be bidding that project out. We filled out for 2 grants, and we actually were awarded those the other day. One, a broadband grant, which will allow us to put Wi-Fi in at the mall. And then we filled out another $750,000 grant to put in a community room in our health department. There will be a room in the health department now that will hold 150 to 200 people. It'll have a big, huge smart board at the end. It will have a kitchen. We put in this grant, there'll be telehealth computers there that people can go in and do telehealth communications on. It'll really bring the mall up to a project to where a lot of the community can utilize that facility. All that had to run through the health department. And so you'll see some of those things probably start happening this fall. And as for the National Guard Armory, the sheriff, we're looking at trying to move some of the offices, not the inmates, just the offices of the jail up to the National Guard Armory to give some more room for the inmates at the jail.
All right, thank you very much for the updates. Senator Bowling, can you talk to us a little bit about the toll lanes or choice lanes, whatever the wording is now? How do you feel about that plan, or do you feel as though the state funding should exclusively be used for the roads other than toll lanes?
I voted against the toll roads, and thank you for that question. The way it was explained, it was another idea that had not been fleshed out. They really, well, we might do this and we could probably do that and maybe we're going to do the other. But there was no clear definition, because how many of you enjoy going to Nashville right now? How many of you like the roads? Since I was elected and going to Nashville, it was always a hassle a little bit, but now you almost need on a safety helmet and maybe some security devices around you, because between Murfreesboro and Nashville, there's usually at least 3 wrecks, and they're often in the same place. So right now, do we need to improve our roadways? Everybody would raise your hand. Is the choice lane the correct way? In some states where they have used them, they're already sad they started them. So I think that it's always good to look at where are they now and how is it working and how are they different from each other. There's still a lot of discussion to go on. So to make such a big deal and act like we were getting something, it's still on the drawing board, John. I don't know that when it will come forward really what it's going to be. But I'm never either for allowing public-private partnerships in something as important and basic as infrastructure, the roads, because the public typically pays, the private typically profits, and that's not good use of our tax dollars. we need, if we're going to have oversight on all these projects, we could already go ahead and do the projects ourselves rather than hiring a company that's international to come in and oversee and own some of the infrastructure in Tennessee, particularly at major junctions like it would be in Knoxville and Nashville and Memphis. Those places, we need the state to be in control, in my opinion. And since there's a nice big room here, how many of you think that we want the state to keep control of our basic infrastructures, including the roads? Show of hands. And how many of you think that it would be good to get public-private partnerships going in and designing and controlling and charging us to use the roads? Thank you very much. I will take that message to Nashville.
Consider the rest of this. All right. Representative Sherrill, we talked about the vouchers earlier and how that kind of went down at the end of the session. And one thing that seemed to really dominate the discussion was the lobbyist influence in that process. Do you believe that lobbyists are too powerful when it comes to their role in the state legislature? And if so, are there any changes that need to be made? Or do you feel as though the role of the lobbyist is appropriate as it is?
Well, you got to think about it as we're in Nashville in the office down there. You have a lot of people that comes into the office asking for help for whatever it may be. Let's just use Ben Lomond. Ben Lomond comes in the office down there because they're asking for help that will help you, correct? I mean, it's part of it. Lobbyists are people that are good or bad. They could be. Lobbyists can educate you. You don't go down there your first year and say, well, this lobbyist, that. You got to learn these people, the lobbyists, if you want to call them. And we have good lobbyists that teaches us and helps us to learn things that's going on in our society. Now, there is some bad lobbyists that will try to pull you in this way, want you to vote for this or vote for that. But they can educate you too. I'm telling you, you can learn them. And they will try to help you to work in a good way for the good of the people. So, yes, they're powerful because, I mean, your product that you have out here for sale, somebody's going to pay for that. And more likely, your tax dollars will pay for whatever that is. But they come to Nashville and they're trying to support you. And I use Ben Lomond again. They come down there. Some of the lobbyists does. They come down there. They're wanting money. They're trying to get money for broadband. And it's a great thing because it's a great tool for all over the great state of Tennessee that we can use for each other. It's just a great way. So, yes, there's good and bad in both.
All right, thank you. Let's have one more question for Mr. Bell, and then I think we're going to let the audience ask some questions for the last 10 or 15 minutes. Mr. Bell, if you could, what do you see as the biggest hurdle that Warren County is going to have to address over the remainder of your term?
Well, we've got several issues. We've got the homeless issue in Warren County that I really don't know how we're going to address that issue, but we do have that problem. We have an individual that's been at the county building, and we've got him put up for several days, but at the end of the day, if they don't want to help themselves, we've got those people that are hanging around businesses and things in Warren County. And I don't know how we address that issue. If anybody's got an answer, I wish you would let me know, because when these people refuse to take help from people, but yet they don't have a home, how does our community handle those people? And it's something that as a whole community, we're going to have to address some way. Now, I don't have the answer to that, but those people have nowhere to go, and they don't have no money to go nowhere. So it's a huge problem that every community, I guess, in the nation is going to struggle with, but we're going to have to come to grips with something to how to try to help our community get over this and make this hurdle better.
All right, thank you. All right, at this time, we'll turn the microphone over to those in the crowd who may have questions. If you've got a question you want to raise your hand, and I or someone will get a mic to you. Mr. Savage in the back. This is exciting.
You get tired. I did. You get more exercise. Executive Bell, could you expand expand on the mall project of UCHRA will move out there, what the benefits will be to people in Warren County?
Yeah, it's, they're in the process of getting drawings too, to renovate the space next to the senior center. And when we move that, the UCHRA out there, they will be able to service our seniors better, because they take a lot of people to the senior center, and that, all those services will be right there together for those individuals. And I know it looks like we haven't spent a lot of money out there, but the county's done spent about $600,000, and what I call stuff that people don't see. So you've not seen a lot of things happen out there. We put a new roof on it. We put ADA door compliances throughout the mall. We put in a security system in, which was not adequate for the mall. We are looking at this year, you'll see this happen. Of course, you know the trees have been cut down. There's been some people didn't like that, but that's not to make any problem with the mall. It's to re-landscape the mall. I'm in the nursery business. After those plants get so big, it's time to revitalize them, cut them down, and put out some new ones and make it look better. You'll see, we just approved a 10x6 digital sign to go in front of the mall. The old sign will be taken down here in the next couple of months, and that new one will be up by the 1st of December. And so we're looking at fixing some of those things and making it a better place for everybody to come to.
Hello. First off, I want to say I found out about the trees being cut down on Chatter, and that's where I find all of my local news. And also, thank you guys for supporting the pharmacy reform legislation. So now their pharmacists are able to prescribe more things and actually take care of customers a lot better. So I'm also with the Main Street McMinnville board, and I want to kind of understand your feelings on the importance of Main Street all across the state, and how you guys intend to help support Main Street. If you're not aware, we were just awarded a $300,000 grant for facade improvements and also local downtown improvements for Main Street, and just how you guys intend to support Main Streets across the state.
Well, I could say, hey, I think it's a great investment. When you try to make your town look nice, that brings people in from wherever it hasn't been here before maybe, and they look at your town and they say, hey, look how nice that McMinnville keeps their town, or Sparta, or wherever it is. If you keep it nice, people will be wanting to move in here. They'll be wanting to spend their money. I think it's a great investment for the city, county.